we can contact you. Now, I'm going to read out some of the questions. Okay. One of the questions, which is a very good question, is to get citizenship, is there a Portuguese language test to be passed, and how difficult is the language test? That's for you, Raquel.
Yeah, absolutely. It is for sure a very common concern. The short answer is yes. To get permanent residency or citizenship in Portugal, it is necessary to show that you can speak the Portuguese language. However, this is not impossible. Okay, so what the government asks it's for the knowledge of what is considered an A2 level. So Portugal follows an European reference. It grows from A to C, C being the highest level of knowledge of the language. So A is the lowest. What it intends to show is that you can hold a very basic conversation in Portuguese. So it's the lowest level in terms of knowing a language. And as I said in my presentation, we actually can show you a program where you can learn the Portuguese online. You can do it as fast as, let's say, like 7 weeks, 7, 12, 24 weeks, whatever it works best for you. And in that program, so far, they have also 100% success rate on passing the Portuguese exams. You can also try as many times as you want. So there's no limits in trying for the exam. And there's also no validity. So if it's a concern, you can start from year 1 to learn Portuguese, and from year 1 to try to take the exam. So that when that year 5 of legal residency comes, you have the Portuguese language test ready to go. Again, it's not very hard, of course. It's learning a new language, and even the small amount of knowledge can have some difficulty, right? But it is the lowest level of knowing a language, so not at all impossible. And we already have investors from all different types of nationalities that were able to pass the exam. So there's already a track record, and if they can do it, I'm sure you can as well. So don't worry about that. That's not to be concerned. It's something that it can be worked on. It is necessary, but it's absolutely possible to do.
Okay, the next question is also for Raquel, and it's a kind of simple but complex question. Does it qualify for Russians?
Yes. The issue with Russian nationalities is, of course, because of the political conflict at the moment. And in terms of European regulations, they have suspended the issuing of the card. However, it is possible to go through with the golden visa application. It's not impossible. But of course, it's not as easy for other nationalities, especially when we are talking about private banks, okay, that have their own compliance. So to open a bank account can be proven an additional difficulty in terms of the initial part of the process of the golden visa application. And for the golden visa application, the issuing of cards can also be proven to be difficult. That does not mean that the situation will be maintained. Okay, so to be completely transparency, there are difficulties associated. It's not impossible, but you will find more difficulty for the Russian citizenship. So, but not impossible, and that situation can always be changed in the future because it's not something set in stone forever.
Okay, another question which just popped up, so perhaps you might want to cover it again, but about reunification. So how many families can get a visa under one investment?
Okay, so there's no limit in terms of number of family members. Okay, there is a limit of the type of family. So it is possible to do for a spouse, for children. If they are above 18, they have to be studying and they have to be single, okay, not married. And it's also possible to do for parents and parents-in-law. If they are below 65, then you have to show proof of dependency. But there's no limits. You can have as many children as you want, and all of them, of course, can be included in the Golden Visa application. But it's for spouses, children, and parents-in-law.
Okay, another question. They're all for Raquel, actually. We'll cover Raquel and then we'll cover a little bit on the investment. Is the 500,000, must it be deposited one time and in cash? I suppose it's for both. But yeah.
Not in cash. Not in cash. It has to be an international transfer. And it's not necessary to be in one time in terms of transferring the funds to the Portuguese account that will be opened. It can be multiple transfers until you reach the full amount, but then the participation unit is, of course, acquired in one time.
Okay, question for both, and also I suppose for Georgina and I. Are you a government of Portugal approved vendor or a private agency and only provide assistance for acquiring golden visa? I appreciate your clarification on this. Okay, I can cover for Georgina and I. We represent the Portugal golden visa in terms of the investments, and we represent several investments actually. And in this time, it is mostly through funds, and so we actually represent several funds. This fund is one that we have picked for the to showcase, and it's because of all the benefits that Francisco has covered earlier in his presentation. In terms of IAS, they are the legal firm, and there are many legal firms, but IAS are, I would say, one of the largest legal firms and the most experienced legal firms in processing the Portugal Golden Visa. And Mercan are a Canadian group. They are a Canadian, initially an immigration agency, and then a property development group, and also an investment group. Have I covered everything, Francisco and Raquel?
Well, Judith, I would say that Mercan, we deal a lot with the immigration side, but we create the vehicles and we own the entire operation. So not only we have developed, but we develop because we want to make sure that we own the entire process. So we basically, in Portugal, we are mostly known nowadays as the operators and as hospitality company, due to the sheer size even of the investments that are here, and the fact that, well, I would say that Mercan as a whole in Portugal has about 600 people, 450 of which are in the hospitality sector. So I think that's the bulk of the people that are here in Portugal. But going to the governmental approved, there's really not something that the government goes in front and saying, well, this is approved and they stamp on it. They provide a law, and as long as you follow that law, you are eligible to accomplish that. And one of the things that I think Raquel could also explain in more detail is that the fact that for an investment fund, in order to be eligible, 60% of the funds have to be invested into Portugal and to Portuguese companies. So the companies where this fund will invest into, it's 100% Portuguese, and 100% of the investment will be done into Portugal. So we're covering all of that, and that's why the fund is eligible to the Portuguese golden visa, of course. Raquel, I don't know if you have anything else would you like to add
yes,
on
and
that?
actually, and Francisco also shown on the presentation that what you have in terms of government stamp is the approval on CMVM, right? So that's the entity responsible to approve the constitution of the funds. In terms of it's eligible for the golden visa, it's precisely as Francisco said. So government has a law, and you follow the guidelines of that law, and the fund is eligible for the golden visa. So the fund itself has that stamp of this entity that is responsible to supervise the constitution and regulation of the investment funds as a whole. And in terms of the golden visa front, you have to follow the immigration law, which Mercan, of course, has done with their investment fund. and they even have various amounts of legal opinions from even different law firms and law academy professors as well, to make sure that they can also offer comfort and guarantee to their investors in regarding the golden visa and the fund eligible for that.
Okay, actually, I don't know if you can say, but how many golden visa clients do IAS have, Raquel?
It's over 3,000 families, so 3,000 investors, over 3,000 investors, and of course their families then add up in terms of people who have a golden visa, but it's around 3,000.
So, so in terms of kind of endorsements, there's 3,000 families, which IAS has processed. And in terms of the number of investors, how many investors do you have in total, Francisco?
Yeah, we have close to 4,000 investors over the past years. All of them in different stages, with some of them have invested in our early hotels and are now have just requested their citizenship and they have received the passport. So that has been a major milestone in what the full circle comes into. And we're now proceeding to the first buybacks of those properties that we are initially offered. And that's great news. We are very happy for all our investors. And it's great to see that to accompany them through the entire process. You know, Judith, I think we had already some clients that have been coming up, and it's so good to see them come to Portugal, see what is actually that they can do here, and open a little bit the horizons in terms of what can be done outside of the investment. And Portugal provides a lot of opportunities, of course.
Mm-hmm. Which brings me to our next question, which is for both actually, in terms of your experience in the schools and all that. Are there any English schools available in Plenty for children?
Well, Plenty, I wouldn't say that I would put Plenty there, but definitely there are a lot of English schools. Actually, we have in Porto the oldest British school outside of UK. It was the first British school was actually coming to Porto. We have a very tight relationship with UK, and well, my kids are actually going to an English school, and they have 60 different nationalities in this school. So there's Portugal is known for being very welcoming to nationalities from all over the world, and the schools that they have in Porto, Lisbon, and in many other cities, they also accommodate that.
Mm-hmm. I have experience with this actually. I have a client, and they moved to Portugal about a year after obtaining the golden visa. The kids studied here in Desa City School, an international IGCSE school, and she then studied at half the fee in a British school, in Lisbon, and she got a scholarship. She got a scholarship by the Portuguese government to go to UK. So I can say that. With that and with some other sort of examples that we have, we also have a colleague, and she's from China, and she moved to Portugal when she was around 10, and she actually joined the local school over there. So what they did was they put her in a class lower because she had to learn the language as well. But she's a clever cookie, and she quickly caught up. And she eventually finished her education in the local school in Portugal, and after that proceeded to go to UK for her university. So there are a lot of pathways. If you'd like to explore that, you can also ask us. We can put you in touch with a education agent. But I think between us, we also have some knowledge of pointing you where to go and which schools you can apply, whether it's private schools or the local schools as well. Georgina did remind me that if anyone wants to ask your questions in Bahasa Indonesia, you are welcome to, and we will also reply. Just lift up your hand, and if you want to record or come on with your voice on the questions, that's okay too, and we will cover that. Let me go forward to a few more questions. There are quite a lot of questions, but I'll try and cover as much as possible, and we're mindful of time, so I'll cover another 2 or 3 questions. And if we don't get to cover your question, then here is Georgina's contact. You can screenshot or take a picture of this one, and Georgina's in contact with many of you, so as well, and inquire. We can set up a Zoom meeting, or we can also set up a WhatsApp group for you to go through further questions that you may have. Georgina, if you would like to, bring up that next slide. But okay, another 2 questions would be quite a lot of these questions are repeated. So can it be for the whole family, husband, wife, children? Investment link. One is an interesting one. Actually, there are 2 interesting ones. One is, what is the minimum investment for this fund?
Well, the minimum investment for the fund is 250,000. However, what the amount that qualifies you to get the ability to request the access to the loan visa is at 500,000.
Okay, so but for both, I think, and I think we'd like to cover this one again. What is the tax for buying into the fund, and what do clients have to pay in terms of the tax, in terms of the returns, the annual returns, and when the buyback happens, are there any tax implications?
Well, Judith, that is a great question. And it's also part of the information that I shared in the presentation. I think it was present there. Regarding the purchase of the fund, there is really no additional tax. So the 500,000 are clean net, so they don't have to pay anything additional. Like you used to have, for instance, when we have the property side, where you had to pay the property, and then you have a stack of upon taxes on top of that. As for the returns, in Portugal, they are not taxed for the venture capital. It's not taxed here in Portugal. However, this might be in the region where you are from, so you have to get close advice from your local advisors to make sure that on your country also not taxed. But here in Portugal, it's clean. So the 2% will amount to 10,000 euros on a yearly basis. So that is net here in Portugal.
That's great. Okay, one last question. How does your fund compare with the rest of the funds, and why do you think the Mercan fund is the better one or the best?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, Judith. It's a tricky one as well. I think what I think it makes it. There are 3 things that really stand out and make the fund completely different from everything that is being offered in the market currently. Well, number one, the fact that we already know and we have visibility where the money is going to. So there is already clear the business units, the companies where they invest, the fund will invest into. They are hospitality companies that are valued into actually a superior amount that where the money is going to. So that I think is very different from what is the general MO, let's say, of the investment funds in Portugal, where they would collect first the funds and then will go and try to get to purchase and to invest into opportunities. The second factor is, I think, the fact that it's in hospitality and that we as a group already are so much into this. It's not something new for us. We've been doing this for so many years now, and our track records, the what we can see online already with the ratings and the number of people that we've been hosting over the past years has been incredible, and this is just going to grow. So we'll continue to. This is something. This is a snowballing ball. So this is just the continuation of what we've been doing in the past, and I would say that the third one, and also a very important one, is the fact that we believe so much in the product and the investments we're investing to that we guarantee that we buy back at the same price. So basically, the companies, because where they are doing the operation, they are able to purchase back the investors at the time that they see it's best for them, after the 6 years, of course, but they will repurchase each investor depending on their needs. And I think this is completely different from what you would find in the market. You have a clear exit strategy from the start. The companies where the fund invests into, they will repurchase each individual investor for the same amount. And I think this is unique. And we're not even starting with the 7 days free stay that the companies also offer to all the investors.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm mindful of time. For those who joined, thank you very much for joining today. If you have a friend or you know, your family or whatever who missed this webinar, do let us know. Let Georgina know. Georgina, if you want to bring up your contact details again, and we can send a recording to you, and also a summary of these presentations. Everyone, any last words on the program, and also any last words on the webinar today?
Judith, let me add some more, maybe a little bit of information. Comparing, because many people ask me what's the difference. So I have a summary, you know, like summary for the residence permit by investment, for example, like Portugal, Spain, Cyprus, Greece, and Malta. So I have a summary. So I would like to emphasize here, actually, Portugal is the only golden visa that can provide the buyback. It's not because of just Mercan is able to provide the buyback, but the program itself, you know, because after you receive the permanent resident in the 6 or 7 years, and then you're able to sell back your investment. So you can have the permanent resident without any investment. So maybe Francisco can elaborate a little bit. While the other, you know, golden visa, you cannot. If you want to apply for the permanent resident in the, let's say, 6 years, and then if you want to exit the investment, then there's a requirement of minimum stay of minimum 180 days per year for 5 years before you can exit your investment. So that's the difference. Francisco, you can elaborate a little bit, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Georgina. Well, I think I mentioned in the beginning where we, as a Canadian group, we targeted Portugal as not just for the country being one of the best countries in terms of the hospitality sector, which we, of course, have also a lot of experience in the US, but it's a lot because of the residency program. And of course, if you have the 5 years, once you get citizenship, you're a citizen, right? So you have a passport, so you don't need to keep the investment anymore, so you can sell that afterwards. But also happens, I would say, in other programs, if you get, for instance, citizenship on those programs, you'll also be able to exit those at that time. But they take much longer, and not in the Portuguese one, which is much simpler in that regard, for sure.
Yeah, I would say that even with these alterations to the nationality law that should be coming into force very soon, it even shows more the compromise and the will of Portugal to welcome citizens and to make the transitional from being a resident to being a citizen as smooth as possible. So comparing to other programs, I would say that at least in terms of citizenship, Portugal for sure has one of the best programs to get you that European citizenship.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. And here again is Georgina's information. And I think Georgina is in touch with all of you. Do reach out to us. After this, the next steps is usually a Zoom call with IAS and also with Mercan. To cover any of the questions we didn't cover, and to, you know, every family is unique, so you might want to ask about reunifications, might want to ask about, you know, questions regarding, you know, timelines and stuff like that. So that's where we come in and reach out to us, and we will also reach out to you as when would you like the next Zoom with us. Thank you very much for joining the webinar today, and have a good day and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.